Northrop Grumman has dropped major news. They just unveiled concept art for their FA-XX sixth-generation naval fighter. Military enthusiasts everywhere are excited not just because of the promise of a futuristic technology, but because it is unmistakably similar to the YF-23. Could resurrecting the legendary YF-23 design give the United States Navy an edge powerful enough to change the balance of air power against China? Join us as we break down the history, technology, and high-stakes politics behind the FA-XX, and why this could be the most important fighter jet competition of the decade. The latest concept art for the FA-XX sixth-generation naval fighter is similar to the legendary YF-23 Black Widow II prototype, which is the same aircraft that went head-to-head with what eventually became the F-22 Raptor back in the early 90s. The timing of this reveal couldn't be more interesting, especially considering how many aviation experts still argue that the YF-23 was actually the superior aircraft in the original competition between the YF-23 and the F-22 Raptor. The Black Widow was faster, stealthier, and had better range than its competitor, but it lost out when the decision-makers prioritized different factors like agility and program management. Many people in the aviation world have always felt that politics and bureaucracy played a bigger role in that selection than pure performance numbers did. What makes this concept particularly fascinating is that Northrop might finally be getting the chance to prove what the YF-23 design could have become with modern technology. The original aircraft was already ahead of its time in the early 90s, so it is not hard to imagine what an updated version with today's advanced materials, electronics, and manufacturing techniques could accomplish. The Office of Management and Budget basically halted the program in July, saying they were worried about having two different sixth-generation fighter programs running at the same time. Their statement made it pretty clear they think the industrial base can't handle both the Air Force and Navy programs simultaneously. Admiral Daryl Caudle did not mince words about what happens if the FA-XX gets halted. The newly confirmed Chief of Naval Operations basically said that cutting funding for this program would leave American carrier air wings completely outgunned, especially since the Chinese are already working on their own sixth-generation fighters. He is therefore pushing for what he calls an all-hands-on-deck approach to military aircraft upgrades, and he has made it crystal clear that he thinks the FA-XX is absolutely essential for keeping America's edge in the sky. The concept art that Northrop Grumman posted on their naval aviation website doesn't reveal too much, which is probably intentional. It mainly shows the nose, cockpit, and front section of the aircraft. But like most early renderings, the final product will likely look pretty different from what's shown here. There's always a gap between what companies show in their marketing materials and what actually rolls off the production line, especially with classified military projects. Why do they show just a small portion of what the jet would be in official photos and press releases? This is nothing new, as Chinese engineers are in the habit of duplicating American airplane designs, so an unspecified program makes sense for national security. Less is more, and foreign intelligence agencies need to know less. Even with a limited view, aviation experts who have analyzed the rendering can spot some interesting design choices. The frame appears to have a smooth, blended construction that has become the hallmark of next-generation stealth technology. Those rounded edges and seamless transitions aren't just for looks. They are crucial for deflecting radar signals and maintaining the low visibility that modern air combat demands. The massive bubble canopy of the jet is basically a dead giveaway that the jet is designed for just one pilot, which is interesting because most people figured the FA-XX would need two crew members for all those long-range missions the Navy's planning. The canopy design is almost a perfect copy of what the YF-23 had back in the day. So Northrop's definitely not trying to hide where they got their inspiration from. The Warzone Forum pointed out that the aircraft has a rounded belly section for fuel and weapons internally, which makes sense for a carrier-based fighter that needs to fly longer distances and hit targets with precision. They also noticed the heavy-duty landing gear, which is a standard requirement for any plane that will repeatedly slam down on aircraft carrier decks. The nose section of the plane is also noticeable, indicating that they would be creating enough room for a powerful radar system. One thing that stands out is how small the air intake appears to be, which seems weird for a fighter that's supposed to be this powerful. But that's probably intentional. Defense contractors love to mess with the proportions in these early renderings to throw off foreign intelligence services who might be trying to figure out the aircraft's real capabilities. The original YF-23 losing to the YF-22 back in 1991 is still one of aviation's most significant what-if moments. That prototype was actually faster and had better stealth characteristics than what became the F-22 Raptor. Considering the Raptor is still the stealthiest fighter in the world today, that says something incredible about how advanced the YF-23 really was. The Black Widow also had better range and could fly higher, but during the actual competition, the YF-22 impressed everyone with more aggressive maneuvers and successful missile tests. The YF-22 had thrust vectoring technology that made it a superior dogfighter, which probably swayed the decision since the team wanted something that could win in close combat. Paul Metz is one of the few people alive who actually got to fly both prototypes, and his take on what happened is pretty eye-opening. According to him, the decision came down to old-school fighter pilot culture still running the show. He said what nobody wanted to admit at that time. Metz gives credit where it's due. He called Northrop's YF-23 team brilliant engineers, but he also noticed they had a major weakness. They talked mostly in technical terms, which doesn't exactly get decision-makers excited. Meanwhile, Lockheed came in with way more marketing savvy and showmanship. They understood that selling military hardware wasn't just about having the best specifications. It was about making people believe in the jet and getting them emotionally invested. The whole competition was supposed to be about which aircraft best met the core requirements: stealth, advanced radar, and supercruise capability. But here is the kicker. According to author James Stevenson, the YF-22 didn't actually demonstrate any of these things during the fly-off. The stealth technology wasn't ready for testing, the radar system wasn't prepared, and it never even achieved supercruise. Only the YF-23 with the GEF-120 engine actually pulled off supercruise, which is ironic since that engine also lost its competition to the Pratt & Whitney F-119, despite showing better performance. It's wild to think about what might have been if the YF-23 had won that competition. The F-22 Raptor is still the gold standard for stealth fighters more than 30 years later. But if the YF-23 was actually superior in speed and stealth back then, an updated version with modern weapons and avionics could be absolutely devastating. Maybe this FA-XX program is finally giving that brilliant design the second chance it deserved all along. Sometimes the best ideas just need the right timing to shine. Back in 2004, Northrop Grumman tried to breathe new life into the YF-23 design by proposing something called the FB-23 Rapid Theater Attack Bomber. This was not just fixing new weaponry on the original fighter. They were talking about a completely scaled-up version that would have been massive compared to the original prototype. It would have stretched about 100 feet long, which is enormous when compared to a regular fighter jet. The FB-23 was intended to be a real two-seat bomber with the ability to carry up to 10,000 pounds of bombs in its internal bay. They also wanted it to cover over 1,600 nautical miles, which is a serious range by anybody's standards. The engines were also different. The YF-23s had wedge-shaped exhaust nozzles, and the bomber version would have had round ones mounted just above the upper deck. Northrop actually took their old YF-23 PAV-2 prototype and modified it to show off what this bomber concept might look like. That's pretty clever marketing, taking an existing aircraft that people could actually see and touch, instead of just showing computer renderings. The company was competing against some heavy hitters too, including Lockheed Martin's FB-22 proposal and Boeing's B-1R upgrade concept. As it turned out, the whole interim bomber concept went under wraps in 2006. Not one, but two quadrennial defense review studies recommended to the then Air Force Secretary Michael Wynne that he accelerate the development of a brand new long-range aircraft, the multi-role FIGO Sportler. The Air Force opted for something with better range than any of the proposals could provide. The YF-23's flight testing results were incredible, especially when it came to supercruise performance. The first prototype with Pratt & Whitney engines hit Mach 1.43 in supercruise back in September 1990, which was already impressive. But the second aircraft with General Electric engines completely blew that away, reaching over Mach 1.6 and eventually topping out at Mach 1.72 in November. Meanwhile, the YF-22 could only manage Mach 1.58 in supercruise, which shows just how much faster the Black Widow really was. When it came to raw speed with afterburners engaged, the YF-23 was tested up to Mach 1.8, though the actual maximum speed remains classified. Most sources suggest it could have gone well over Mach 2 at altitude with full afterburner, which would have made it one of the fastest fighters ever built. The aircraft also demonstrated decent maneuverability with a maximum angle of attack of 25 degrees, though this wasn't its strongest suit compared to the YF-22. One area where Northrop might have shot themselves in the foot was weapons testing. They configured the weapons bay properly and ran acoustic tests to make sure missiles could be launched safely. But they never actually fired any weapons during the demonstration. Lockheed, on the other hand, successfully launched both AIM-9 and AIM-120 missiles from their YF-22, which probably looked a lot more impressive to the people making the final decision. The flight test program wrapped up in December 1990 after the two YF-23 prototypes flew 50 missions, totaling just over 65 hours of flight time. PAV-1 even pulled off this intense combat demonstration on November 30th, flying 6 different sorties over a 10-hour period to show what the aircraft could do under pressure. Both teams turned in their final proposals and evaluation results by December 1990, but the waiting didn't last long. On April 23, 1991, Air Force Secretary Donald Rice dropped the hammer and announced that Lockheed's YF-22 had won the competition. Along with picking the aircraft design, they also went with Pratt & Whitney's F-119 engine to power the production version, even though the General Electric engine had actually shown better performance during testing. The official reasoning behind the decision focused on technical aspects and risk management, which is where Northrop apparently fell short. The Air Force considered Lockheed's approach lower risk, partly because the YF-22 had flown way more test flights and logged significantly more hours than the YF-23. There's something to be said for having more data to work with, even if that data showed the competing aircraft was slower and less stealthy. Program management also played a huge role in the final decision. The evaluators felt that Lockheed and Pratt & Whitney had more effective management structures in place, which probably mattered a lot when they were thinking about actually building hundreds of these things. Aviation industry folks have also speculated that the YF-22 design looked more adaptable for the Navy's planned NATF program, though that ended up being irrelevant since the Navy canceled that project by fiscal year 1992 anyway. In hindsight, it was pretty obvious this was more than just about a comparison of which aircraft had the better air-to-air performance. For the next 3 decades, politics and risk assessment in conjunction with corporate relationships would dictate a decision that ultimately altered the face of fighter aviation. The YF-23 may be an even more lethal machine, but Lockheed seemed to have done a much better job at convincing people. Back in the 80s, the Air Force started getting seriously worried about what the Soviets were building. Their new Su-27 and MiG-29 fighters were looking pretty impressive, and the aging F-15 just wasn't going to cut it against these next-generation threats. The YF-23 was built for just one pilot and measured 67 feet 5 inches long with a wingspan of 43 feet 7 inches, making it roughly the size of a large school bus in length, but with wings that could span across a 4-lane highway. At 13 feet 11 inches tall, it stood about as high as a single-story house, and its wing area of 950 square feet was roughly equivalent to a small apartment. Without engines, the aircraft weighed 29,000 pounds, but when fully loaded for takeoff, it could reach 64,000 pounds, about the same as 30 average cars combined. The power plant options were seriously impressive, with either Pratt & Whitney YF-119 or General Electric YF-120 afterburning turbofans providing the muscle. Each engine could produce 23,500 pounds of thrust normally, but with afterburners engaged, they could push out between 30,000 and 35,000 pounds of force. To put that in perspective, that's like having the combined power of dozens of Formula One race cars strapped to each wing, giving the aircraft enough thrust to literally climb straight up if needed. When it came to speed, The YF-23 was absolutely brutal in the air. Its maximum speed reached Mach 2.2, which translates to about 1,452 miles per hour at high altitude, fast enough to cross the entire continental United States in less than 2 hours. Even more impressive was its super cruise capability of Mach 1.72 without using afterburners, meaning it could sustain over 1,100 miles per hour while sipping fuel relatively efficiently for a fighter jet. The aircraft's operational capabilities were equally impressive, with a ferry range of 2,400 nautical miles and a combat range between 700 and 800 nautical miles, giving it enough reach to fly from Los Angeles to Denver without refueling. It could climb to 65,000 feet, more than twice the altitude of commercial airliners, and handle forces up to 7.1 times normal gravity. The thrust-to-weight ratio of 1.09 meant it had enough power to accelerate vertically, and at combat weight, that ratio improved to 1.36, making it an absolute rocket ship in dogfight situations. While the YF-23 prototypes never actually carried weapons during testing, the aircraft was designed with serious firepower in mind for the production version. The main gun would have been the 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon, which is the same multi-barrel rotating cannon that's been the standard fighter weapon for decades. It fires at an incredible rate and can shred enemy aircraft or ground targets with devastating effectiveness, making it the perfect close-range weapon when missiles aren't the right choice. For medium-range air-to-air combat, the aircraft was designed to carry 4 AIM-120 advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, or the older AIM-7 Sparrow missiles internally. The AIM-120 is basically the gold standard for beyond visual range combat. It's a fire-and-forget weapon that can track and destroy enemy aircraft from dozens of miles away. Having 4 of these missiles means the pilot could engage multiple targets without having to get dangerously close to enemy fighters. The YF-23A wasn't just some random prototype. It was Northrop's carefully crafted answer to what the Air Force said they had to have in their next fighter. The military wanted 4 main things: survivability against enemy weapons, the ability to cruise at supersonic speeds without afterburners, stealth technology to avoid radar detection, and something that wouldn't be a nightmare for ground crews to maintain. Northrop took all these requirements and built an aircraft that looked like nothing anyone had seen before. The design evolution from earlier concepts had produced something that was highly refined, but definitely unconventional in appearance. Its diamond-shaped wings were tapered symmetrically with edges swept at 40 degrees both front and back, giving the aircraft this distinctive angular look that screamed stealth technology. The whole fuselage was carefully shaped using area-ruling principles to reduce wave drag, which is basically the engineering technique of making an aircraft's cross-sectional area change smoothly to minimize the shock waves that create drag at high speeds. What really set the YF-23 apart are its V-shaped tail surfaces, officially called ruddervators, because they combine the functions of both rudders and elevators in a single moving surface. This wasn't just about looking cool. Those angled tails were crucial for maintaining stealth characteristics, while still giving the pilot control over the aircraft. Traditional vertical tail fins would have created big radar reflections, so Northrop's engineers had to get creative with how they handled flight control. The cockpit placement was another smart design choice, positioned high up near the nose to give the pilot excellent visibility in all directions. Fighter pilots need to see what's happening around them during combat, especially when multiple aircraft are maneuvering at high speeds in 3-dimensional space. By putting the cockpit up front and high, Northrop ensured that the pilot wouldn't have any significant blind spots that could get them injured in a dogfight situation. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.